Aberdeen Heritage Festival. Bonjour tout le monde et bienvenue au Festival du patrimoine d'Aberdeen. My name is Hugues Baudouin-Dumouchel and I have the pleasure of being your Master of Ceremony this morning. Je m'appelle Hugues Baudouin-Dumouchel et c'est moi qui ai le plaisir d'être votre maître de cérémonie ce matin. At this time, I would like to invite those who can to please stand for the arrival of Her Honor, the Honourable Elizabeth Dowdeswell, Lieutenant Governor of Ontario, His Worship Jim Watson, Mayor of the City of Ottawa, and the official party. J'aimerais maintenant inviter les personnes qui le peuvent à se lever pour l'arrivée des délégués officiels. Ladies and gentlemen, those joining Her Honor and His Worship in the official party today are Chief Wendy Jocko, Chief of the Algonquins of Pikwakanagan First Nation, Lieutenant Colonel Gord Scharf, Commanding Officer, Cameron Highlanders of Ottawa, le Lieutenant-Colonel Vincent Quesnel, Commandant des Governor-General's Foot Guards, Mr. Peter Hume and Ms. Joan O'Neill, former councillors, City of Ottawa, Mr. Marc Lamoureux, immediate past President, Central Canadian Exhibition Association. It is important to begin today's celebrations by acknowledging that Ottawa is located on the unceded territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation. I would like to honor the land and the peoples of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation, whose ancestors have lived on this territory for millennia and whose culture and presence have nurtured and continue to nurture this land. Il est important de souligner que la ville d'Ottawa est située sur un territoire non cédé de la nation Anishinaabe algonquine. J'aimerais honorer les terres et les peuples de la nation Anishinaabe algonquine dont les ancêtres ont vécu sur ce territoire durant des millénaires et dont la culture et la présence ont enrichi et continuent d'enrichir ces terres. To begin today's ceremony, I would like to invite Chief Wendy Jocko to come forward to deliver a territorial welcome in just a few short moments. J'inviterai incessamment la chef Wendy Jocko à s'approcher pour faire l'accueil territorial. Wendy Jocko, Chief of the Algonquins of Pikwakanagan First Nation, is a retired sergeant with the Canadian Armed Forces. Growing up, Chief Jocko always knew she wanted to join the military. Born in Pembroke, she comes from a long line of Indigenous warriors who fought to defend Canada and restore peace. After serving 23 years in the Canadian Armed Forces, she is now Chief of the Algonquins of Pikwakanagan First Nation. Chief Jocko.
Kwekwe hello bonjour, dear friends, Lieutenant Governor of Ontario, Her Honour the Honourable Elizabeth Dowdeswell, His Worship Mayor Jim Watson, honoured guests, Pajashin, Kakina, Tunisiak, Nongom, welcome and bienvenue to everyone here today. Anishinaabe Hakin Hateawaso Kikinawa Dijikan. This land we're upon is the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. The Algonquin people have lived for thousands of years on this unsurrendered territory. We thank and honour the land. We acknowledge the enduring presence of all First Nation, Inuit and Métis people who call Algonquin territory their home along with other nations. We acknowledge all the residential school children who never made it home. We acknowledge the survivors and all they have endured. We honour the important contributions of all veterans in service to Canada, and we remember those who lost their lives and those whose lives were forever changed. Miigwech, thank you, merci for the invitation here today to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the rededication of the Aberdeen Pavilion. The Aberdeen Pavilion has been noted a one-of-a-kind structure that dates back to 1898, when it was built to welcome the Central Canada Agricultural Exhibition. It has also served as a meeting point for soldiers heading to combat in the Boer War and World War I, but also as an ice pad where the original Ottawa Senators won the Stanley Cup in 1904. A very versatile building that has seen it all, and it remains today the only unsupported building of its type in North America. It's a beautiful building with a rich history filled with many memories. On that note, I'd like to offer these words. Iliu nama hawenan, maba nesema, minwan na orewenanen, gedapa gedinamagam. We offer our prayers, tobacco, and our hearts. Miigwech gedam inam nimishoma sinanik, minwa nokamishananink, chinago, ge eajik, nongom, e eajik, minwa wabang, ge eajik. Thank you for the grandfathers and the grandmothers of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Miigwech manadog, eojik nodinong, eajik nabeng, eajik geshkodeng, minwa eajika king. Thank you, spirits of the winds, water, fire, and earth. Miigwech manadog, eajik kawedanong, wabanong, shawanong, minwa apangishimok. Thank you, spirits of the north, east, south, and west. Daga be wadoka wishnong, we mino pamadziong. Please help us to live a good life. Miigwech, thank you, merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Chief Jocko. Miigwech. Please be seated. Veuillez vous asseoir. It is now my distinct pleasure to invite Her Honour, the Honourable Elizabeth Dowdeswell, Lieutenant Governor of Ontario, to come forward to deliver her remarks. J'ai maintenant l'immense plaisir d'inviter son honneur, l'Honorable Elizabeth Dowdeswell, Lieutenant-Gouverneur de l'Ontario, à s'avancer pour prononcer son allocution. Your Honour.
Your Worship, Chief Jocko, and distinguished guests. Good morning, everyone. Bonjour, kwekwe, and happy Canada Day weekend. I'm extending it by a day because yesterday was so much fun that it needs to continue for yet another day. Thank you, Chief Jocko, for starting us off in such a good way. Well, it's a real pleasure to be able to be with you this morning in this grand, whimsical, and magnificently yellow building at a time when we're all being called upon to declutter. I think we can all agree that the Aberdeen Pavilion is worth hanging on to. It's decidedly sparking joy. 30 years after City Council voted to restore it, we're gathered here today to celebrate its ongoing revitalization. And milestones such as these give us a chance to take stock of where we are. We ask ourselves what we can learn from the past as we seek to surmount the obstacles that obviously lie on the path ahead. And as the Chief just suggested, the story of this building is instructive. In its earlier years, it was an exhibition hall, a hockey arena, a horse riding school, a military training facility, and of course, a cattle castle. As a venue, it continually offered new possibilities until it seemed it was out of date and out of lives. But some Ontarians, some on the stage this morning, including a certain young councillor by the name of Jim Watson, believed very differently. They encouraged the city to reimagine it once again as the center of the community hub that is Landsdowne Park. This pavilion was saved by the community for the community to use. In its various and varied events it has then hosted, its generous, wide-open space has continued to foster both gathering and social cohesion. So today's festival reminds us as well that heritage work is not just about preservation and conservation. It's also about education, about contemporary relevance and inclusion. As Ontario reopens, emerging from the worst of the COVID-19 pandemic, we actually have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to build back better and bolder. And I think this pavilion provides a shining example of what we can accomplish if we work together with optimism, ingenuity, and belief. It shows us how we can reimagine our relationships with one another, with the environment, and with the built environment as well. So may it well point the way towards a future that uses the best of the past as the foundation. As Her Majesty the Queen's representative in Ontario, I'm very proud to stand with my vice-regal predecessors, Their Excellencies, the Right Honourable Lord Aberdeen and Raymond Natition, in support of the Aberdeen Pavilion and the community to whom it means so much. I offer my warm gratitude to all those who fought to save it some 3 decades ago, and those who have helped it thrive since then. Among you is that same city councillor, now Ottawa's longest-serving mayor, I believe. Your Worship, as we celebrate Her Majesty's Platinum Jubilee, marking some 70 years of steadfast service, I thank you for your unstinting dedication to this city, as epitomized by your support for this building. Thank you to all the volunteers, those of you here today who got up early to join us. Thank you to everyone who's lent their time and their talents, and for all of you for being here. I wish you a wonderful festival. Thank you all. Merci. Miigwech.
Merci, Votre Honneur. J'ai le privilège maintenant de vous présenter l'hôte de cet événement fantastique, Monsieur le maire Jim Watson. It is an honor for me to now invite His Worship, Jim Watson, to deliver his remarks. Your Worship.
Well, thank you very much, Hugh. Merci beaucoup, Hugh. Bienvenue. Welcome. It's great to see so many people who have gathered for the formal portion of the program and understand that until 3 o'clock this afternoon, there are great activities throughout Landsdowne Park. Et certainement, c'est un plaisir pour moi de dire merci d'accepter notre invitation ce matin. I'm very, very pleased to welcome Her Honor, the Lieutenant Governor. Thank you very much, Your Honor, for being with us today. I can only imagine your schedule pulls you in many different directions, and it was really very exciting news when we heard that you were able to join us, so thank you very, very much. Also, Chief Wendy Jocko, thank you very much for the land acknowledgement and the prayer, and we very much appreciate the positive relationship we have with you and the Algonquin Nation. My colleagues from City Council, Councillor Dudas and Gower, Councillor Menard, I don't know if I see others, if they can give me a shout. We have our Member of Parliament, Yasser Naqvi, is with us as well. And of course, Lieutenant Colonel Gord Scarf and Lieutenant Colonel Vincent Quesnel. Mark Lamoureux, immediate past president of the Central Canada Exhibition, Joan O'Neill and Peter Hume, who served on City Council when the building was saved. We have a number of members of the diplomatic community who are here, members, high commissioners and ambassadors, and our sponsors, including Central Canada Exhibition Association, which got this event up and running, because today marks the 30th anniversary of the resolution to save the Aberdeen Pavilion that was put forward by my colleagues Peter Hume and Joan O'Neill and myself when we were all city councillors at the old city of Ottawa back on Sussex Drive. Since then, the Aberdeen Pavilion and all of Landsdowne Park has been revitalized, becoming a destination for the city, a welcoming place to live, work, and play. Ottawa City Council approved the Landsdowne Revitalization project in June 2010, which included the creation of a large urban park and the refurbishment of the stadium, Southside stands, and the Civic Centre. And the project included the construction of a mixed-use area including restaurants, retail spaces, movie theaters, residences. There's a children's play area, an apple orchard, a community garden. And Landsdowne is transformed into a great destination point that blends modern amenities with heritage buildings such as this building and the beautiful horticulture building. Le Parc Landsdowne a été transformé en une attraction de classe mondiale où se mêlant, harmonisant les aménagements modernes, les cours, les édifices patrimoine et les espaces verts. And the Aberdeen Pavilion, as Her Honor pointed out, was named after Governor-General Lord Byron Aberdeen, is an Ottawa landmark at the centre of Landsdowne Park with its beautiful surroundings and state-of-the-art facilities that were unveiled in 2014. Inspired by London's Crystal Palace, the pavilion was built in 1898 to serve as the main hall for the Central Canada Exhibition. I encourage you to take a look at some of the wonderful photos from the City of Ottawa archives that look at the history of this beautiful building. In 1991, City Council voted to demolish the building, but its fate became a major issue in the municipal election later that year. And preserving this historic structure is an important part of our heritage, and the following year, City Council reversed its earlier decision and approved the renovation plan. The newly restored structure opened in 1994 with His Excellency, the Right Honourable Raymond John Matitian, and it continues to offer a unique glimpse into the history of Ottawa since the turn of the last century. For many years, the main purpose of the structure was agricultural shows, and from that came the nickname the Cattle Castle. The CCEA was held at Landsdowne Park every year from 1888 to 2010, and I'm sure many here today have fond memories of the Midway and the concerts at Super X. In 1902, the Ottawa Senators, then known as the Ottawa Hockey Club, built a hockey arena inside the pavilion, and the club played the full 1904 season and the Stanley Cup games right here. And during both wars, the pavilion and Landsdowne Park were used for military training and housing. And after the Second World War, the City of Ottawa decided to lease Landsdowne to the Central Canada Exhibition Association, forcing the Canadian Army to vacate the site. Now the Aberdeen Pavilion hosts a variety of events, community programming, and recreation activities year-round. Just last year, the pavilion turned out to be the perfect location for the popular immersive experience Van Gogh 360. And the courtyard north of Aberdeen Pavilion, right over there, is home to the Ottawa Farmers Market, and the East Court is home to the Summer Arts Series and 613 Flea, offering treasure hunters a popular monthly marketplace. I would encourage people after the formal ceremony to please go and visit different vendors all throughout the site. The Bytown Fire Brigade is here. The Ottawa Senators have interactive displays. The Red Blacks will be on the field at the stadium itself. You can go right onto the field. The flea market, the Landsdowne Farmers Market, all are taking place outside the building. We encourage you to go and walk around, particularly for the kids who want to go and see an old-fashioned fire truck. I hope everyone has a wonderful time. I want to thank the Exhibition Association who helped fund today's event, as well as our protocol office. They do terrific work day in and day out, bringing these special events right here into the community. Je vous souhaite à tous et à tous beaucoup de plaisir de la fête patrimoine d'Aberdeen. And now I would like to invite the Honourable Elizabeth Doddswell, Chief Jocko, Lieutenant Colonel Scarf, Lieutenant Colonel Quizno, Peter Hume, Joan O'Neill, and Mark Lamoureux to come forward for the presentation.
Thank you, Your Worship. At this time, we will now welcome remarks from Mr. Mark Lamoureux, immediate past president, Central Canada Exhibition Association. Je cède maintenant la parole à Monsieur Mark Lamoureux, président sortant, Central Canada Exhibition Association. Monsieur Lamoureux.
Thank you. Good morning, Your Honor, Your Worship, members of the Diplomatic Corps, former and current members of the City Council, members of the Central Canada Exhibition, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mark Lamoureux, and I am the immediate past president of the Central Canada Exhibition. It is an honor and privilege to join you here this morning for such a momentous occasion as we celebrate the 30th anniversary of the resolution to save the Aberdeen Pavilion. And we also celebrate the long-standing relationship that the CCEA has had at Landsdowne Park in the Aberdeen Pavilion with this plaque unveiling ceremony today. The Central Canada Exhibition Association operated a fair annually from 1888 until 2010, except during World War II, when the grounds were used by the Canadian military. The exhibition provided exhibits, entertainment, and amusements indoors in the buildings, on site, and outdoors on the ground. 1888 admission charge of the first exhibition grounds was 25 cents per person. For 2-horse vehicles, the fee was 75 cents, and for 1-horse rigs, 50 cents with the driver admitted free. In 1898, of course, the Aberdeen Pavilion, named after Governor-General Lord Aberdeen, opened. In 1908, the first pure food show was staged by the Retail Grocers Association and held at the Howick Hall, with gate receipts being the largest in the history of the CCEA. In 1910, the first general distribution of marquee wheat made from the Dominion Experimental Farms, developed by Dr. William Saunders, director of the Central Experimental Farms. Saunders developed this wheat that matures in 90 days from time of planting, which was an idea from the prairie provinces. In 1914, the Horticultural Hall was used for the first time, with it being established by Martin Burrell, Dominion Minister of Agriculture at the time. In 1920 to 1930, farmers from outlying areas often used trains to transport their livestock to the X. The animals were loaded off at Dow's Lake and brought to the grounds by children, who were paid 25 cents for each animal they brought here. In 1931, the Central Canada Exhibition Association established the Junior Farmers Department, where boys and girls from farms competed in various competitions, such as judging of seeds, livestock, weeds, homemaking classes, and it was the first time in Canada that a special department for boys and girls was created, which led to the 4-H clubs being established in the 1950s. In 1942 to 1946, the exhibition held in 1942 to 1946, no exhibition was held at Landsdowne Park due to the property being used by the Department of National Defense as an induction and training center for the military. Excuse me. In 1950, the first International Day was to promote international goodwill and friendship. In 1952, the directors gave a party for the agriculture and horticulture exhibitors as an expression of appreciation to the contributions towards the success of the exhibition. In 1974, the Exhibition Association started to work to move the exhibition to a new location, but the exhibition never moved. And in 1994, the City of Ottawa directed the association to stop searching for a new location. During the period from 1974 to 1994, funds were set aside for the move, and several buildings fell into decline, notable the Aberdeen Pavilion. After the decision was made to keep the X in place, the Aberdeen Pavilion was restored with the assistance of $1.3 million, which the CCA committed towards the project in exchange for a 10-year lease. In 2010 was the last year the X was held at Landsdowne Park. Unfortunately, Landsdowne Park was unable to support the growing exhibition. The Central Canada Exhibition bought a site off Albion Road. However, the land was not serviced, and it would cost roughly $25 million to make it work. In 2014, the CCEA then met and decided to dissolve the group, and the X was finished. Excuse me. After selling the land, the CCEA has donated $15,000 to each of the 12 fairs in District 1. We donated $200,000 to set up scholarship fund for the OAS, $200,000 to the 4-H Ontario Scholarship Fund, $100,000 to set up a scholarship fund for the Showman's League of Canada. 16 individual local groups received checks for $10,000 for their cause. And to keep the fairs and agricultural going strong within the City of Ottawa, the 5 fairs in the City of Ottawa were each given $500,000 or $500,000. I would personally like to thank all volunteers, board of directors, ex-goers over the past 122 years for making so many memorable moments for so many people and for injecting millions of dollars here at home in the City of Ottawa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lemourer, and thank you as well for your work, because I'm sure many people here today have very fond memories of attending Ottawa's Super X. I would now like to invite Her Honor, Chief Jocko, Mr. Hume, Ms. O'Neill, and Mr. Lemourer to join His Worship Jim Watson for the official unveiling of the commemorative plaques marking the 30th anniversary of City Council's resolution to save the Aberdeen Pavilion, and a plaque commemorating the history of the Central Canada exhibition here at Landsdowne Park. To conclude our ceremony this morning, I would like to introduce some members of the Carlton University Choir to perform the national anthem, and I would like also to thank them for their participation today this morning. Je remercie les quelques membres de la chorale de l'Université Carleton de leur participation à l'événement d'aujourd'hui. Merci d'être avec nous. For those who can, please stand for the national anthem and remain standing for the departure of the official party. J'invite les personnes qui le peuvent à se lever pour l'hymne national et ensuite à rester debout pour le départ des délégués officiels. Thank you very much for attending these opening ceremonies. I hope you will enjoy the fun festivities taking place both in the Aberdeen Pavilion and on the grounds of Landsdowne Park. As the mayor did say, you're invited to wander around. There's a farmer's market, bouncy castle, classic vehicles on display, and lemonade stands. Alors, merci beaucoup d'avoir été des nôtres. N'hésitez pas à parcourir le terrain ici au Parc Landsdowne. Ladies and gentlemen, mesdames, messieurs, have a great day. Bonne journée.
Life's hard. I think it's going to be connection that's going to help us get through. And I think connection oftentimes starts with the family unit. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope you found this educational session helpful.
Hi, and welcome to this edition of Conversations at the Royal. Today we discuss beautiful minds where lived experiences, stories, and brains combine to end stigma. And I am joined by a wonderful man, Steve West. He is a fine art photographer with a practice centered around innovative techniques of combining photographic art and science. And his latest project is called Beautiful Minds. Steve, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you for inviting me to be here. Much appreciated.
Absolute pleasure. And congratulations on the book. I've had a chance to read through it. And I was saying to you off camera, just it was, it was gut wrenching, but it was also something that really affected me because I've had some of my own issues. So I really connected a lot with these stories, with these lived experiences that many of these people have poured their hearts out, of course, to you. Let's just start off a little bit, Steve, about introducing yourself to our viewers and tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure. Well, I'm an immigrant to Ottawa since 2003. I came here initially when I was working for the MDS organization, and I was the CEO of MDS Nordion for quite a few years. And I finished that particular role in 2014. But I have a background in biology, zoology, genetics, and health science. And so that kind of informs me a little bit on the scientific side. I have been involved with the tech community in Ottawa for quite a time. I was chair of Bayview Yards, the Innovation Center, and I used to be on the board of the Ottawa Hospital Foundation for quite a few years. And when my term came up on that board, I was asked if I would join the board of the Institute of Mental Health Research. And at the time, I was interested in the Brain Imaging Center and the imaging aspect of mental health. And so I said, yeah, I'll join the board. And that was a few years ago. And for the last couple of years, I've been chairing the board. So I got involved with the Royal as an institution really through sort of my career, I guess, and the work that I'd done in the community. And so I've been, really pleased to be part of that organization. And during that time, of course, I got involved with all aspects of mental health. And you probably want to know how we got to get the book together, but it's not a simple story. And there are quite a few elements to that.
Well, what sparked your interest, Steve, in the Brain Imaging Center?
Well, interestingly, at Nordion, we were involved in molecular imaging. We were a world leader in providing some of the products that are used for medical imaging. So I had a bit of a sort of a background, I guess, in understanding how things like PET cameras and MRIs work. And so the Royal itself has a unique technology center. It's called the Brain Imaging Center. It's relatively new, and the machine there is one of the only machines in the world that's being used for mental health research. So it's not a diagnostic machine. It's actually a machine to find solutions for mental health issues. So it is a research facility, and that's a particular interest to me, for sure. And then there's a personal connection, and that's in the book.
Okay.
And that came about, though, actually subsequent to me joining the board of the IMHR. So that's one of those sort of, events in life that you're not necessarily, planning or predicting, but as a member of a family that's been going through some challenges, then I became even more connected with the cause of mental health and addiction.
Well, and I know it's something that can be difficult to share with people, but you've decided to share it. So, Steve, tell me a little bit about those mental health challenges within your family.
Yeah, and so, in the book, I talk about actually members of my family, but I guess it's their story to share, so I won't share their stories. It's more around the stories that I have and my wife has of encountering challenges in substance use disorder. Maybe I should backtrack a little bit and talk about, how we got to the book, because initially this was not going to be a book about stigma or substance use disorders at all. It was originally a project to exemplify what was happening at the Brain Imaging Center and the importance of mental health research. So that was the fundamental beginning, if you will, of the idea. And as we were talking about at the board level about how we could connect the Brain Imaging Center with the community, it's like neurons to the neighborhood, if you will.
Yeah.
There was lots of ideas flying around, and one of them was called Beautiful Minds. And the idea was to take some of the colorful images that come out of the brain scanner and sort of put some folks through the scanner and make their images available for public dissemination in maybe some of the talks that people do, and so forth and so forth. And at the time, after we had that presentation of the board, I went into the office of the then leader of the institute and said, it's a great idea, but it needs a little more kind of substance to it. What if we do a project where we not only take the brain images, but we take the stories of the people that are having their brains photographed, so to speak.
Right.
And at the time, I was a good closet photographer, and the idea got some traction, and I suddenly realized I dug a big hole for myself, because I really, didn't know how to take portraits at all, and I was, mainly take sort of family photographs and travel and things. So the idea of this suddenly coincided with a course that I was taking in the summer, just a part-time course on photography at the School of Photographic Art, Ottawa. And in the conversations there, this project started to get interesting. My photographic hobby started to become a little more of a passion.
Right.
And, one of those conversations that ended up me agreeing to become a full-time student for 2 years. So
really,
yeah. So at the time,
that's amazing. Oh my goodness.
Not one of my sort of life sort of plans. I mean, this is totally
right.
Serendipitous. But the conversation that I had led me to saying, you know what? I mean, you've got to reinvent yourself, and this is a great opportunity for me to do something different. And perhaps, make a difference as well. So I signed up. I became a full-time student for 2 years. I am now a proud graduate of the School of Photographic Art in Ottawa, which is the only school, actually, the only college in Ottawa that runs a full-time diploma in photographic art. It's not photography, it's photographic art. And so I would call myself a visual artist.
So what's the difference, Steve? How would you explain the difference between those two things to people, photographic artist and photographer?
Well, photography covers so many different genres. I mean, everything from weddings to portraits. landscapes, what have you, Photographic art is it's very different in that it's really expressing an image through the lens in a very artistic way. So not so much technical, but more around the artistry. That's not just composition, but around perhaps we used, actually year one, there's no digital photography. It's pretty much all analog because we learn how to use light properly and so forth. So it's not fashion photography per se. It's not commercial photography. It's very much, painting through the lens, if you will, or sculpting through the lens. And of course, we use digital techniques. Everybody does. Even the darkroom, very few photographs come out of the darkroom looking the same as what they did when they went into the darkroom.
Right.
So, but the school teaches you how to do what we call historic processes, alternative processes, and very often, the art of photographic art is very often about stories or about relevance or about things that are socially important. And so, like a lot of art, you want to be impactful so that the art creates a conversation piece. And that's what I hope the book does, by the way.
Well, it certainly does, Steve. And that's, and I want to talk about, so it's almost like this transition from, curiosity into going to school and, and it's a fascinating story. And that you then start, I guess, a greater understanding of mental health and how, this brain imaging center works with people that have, that are going through mental health challenges. So tell me what you learned about mental health throughout this journey.
Well, so, back to the sort of the genesis and evolution of the book. The original idea was to, put a set of images together. It wasn't actually even a book at the time. But we were having difficulty actually getting traction around having people, come and be prepared to go through the brain scanner. It's a little intimidating. I mean, it's not dangerous. It's non-invasive, but, it's an MRI machine. So, some people are a little concerned, and some people are also saying, what will they find when they look in my brain? So, a couple of famous people, including somebody that has worn one of those sweaters sitting behind you, said that they would come and have their brain imaged. But, we were struggling to get them in. And so this was at the time that I was, our family was also becoming, involved with substance use disorder. So I was introduced to somebody that's actually in the book, who was at the time the executive director of a peer support association for substance use disorder. It's called CAPSA, based here in Ottawa. And the individual is Gord Garner, who's become a very good friend. And actually behind me is an artistic renditioning of Gord's brain. And so I was talking to Gord because I've been introduced to him around the issues that our family was facing and how we might deal with those challenges. And that's all part of dealing with stigma. And, one day I was actually in Gord's office and I said, Gord, I'm working on this project. Part of it is for my graduation from the School of Photographic Art. And I had this epiphany that maybe what we should do is take images and take stories of people who have gone through substance use disorder and have their stories to tell. And so these are people, in recovery, and Gord is one of those people. So then the project shifted, and it actually suddenly had, I would say, a focus that all of a sudden the book became about talking about the issues of stigma, telling the stories of people that have gone through substance use disorders and addictions, and then wrapping that around the importance of doing research into brain imaging in order to learn more, to talk more, and reduce stigma more. So that then became the objectives of the book. And Gord helped me kind of recruit, if you will, the people that were willing to share their stories. And if anybody gets a chance to go through the book, you'll see that the stories are incredibly powerful. They're very emotional, but they also display resilience. And,
Absolutely.
And the whole process, when you ask the question, what did I learn? Well, the whole process educated me in so many different aspects about stigma and how, destructive it is, how we don't talk about these things properly, as well as, my sort of board chair hat at the IMHR of thinking about how we can get the community to understand and be involved in mental health research. So as I was then starting to put the book together, the storytellers came into my photographic studio that I've been setting up. And before I even took their photograph, I sat down with them for an hour and just talked. And of course, they brought their experiences to the table. I shared some of mine. And, I learned so much from each individual whose story is told in the book. And because I think the power of listening to those stories, and people can read them, it's so impactful. Whether it's at a personal level or whether it's at a more sort of societal level, understanding what people have been through.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
As the fighting continues in Ukraine, thousands of people are fleeing for their lives, forced to leave everything behind. You can help them. Your donation to the Humanitarian Coalition will provide food, water, shelter, and medical care to the people of Ukraine who urgently need it. Call 1-855-461-2154 or donate online today at together.ca. That's together.ca. The Humanitarian Coalition. Together, saving more lives.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.